Hello and welcome to today's workshop. I thought I'd try and paint something really happy and cheery today because let's face it, day after day of not being allowed out for more than a short walk and not being able to see your friends can really start to get you feeling a bit miserable. So what could be more cheerful than a gorgeous vase of flowers? So that's what we're going to be painting today. I'll just take that off for now. This obviously is the finished painting and I will be showing you how I did it. We've got these lovely, I don't know whether they're poppies or tulips springing out of this vase. We've got fresh greens and we've got this purple light vase sitting on a table against an open window with some flying birds in the background. So let's move on and I'll show you how I did it. Okay. Here. To start with, composition wise, I've got my vase just off centre, kind of situated just off onto a third, and then I've got the heart of the flowers sort of in this round shape up here on my top third. So just a little bit of drawing to start. I'm just going to sketch in where my vase goes very loosely, and then the only other thing I'm going to do is put in roughly where my tabletop goes. If you want to add some of the main flowers you can, so it could be that I sort of suggest a tulip there, there's an open sort of poppy and a splattery poppy there, and that's it. Right, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put a wash of colour on my background so that my flowers have got something to sit against. And this is going to have the direction coming into the flowers, just a little bit of something, maybe a little bit of pink coming in there, and maybe a little bit of blue. So that's cerulean blue, no, that's French ultramarine blue, and alizarin crimson. So just those two interspersed. I'm going to go right across the vase, totally ignore everything else that's in there. Maybe some tiny bit of yellow at the top just to suggest a bit of sunshine coming through. And then just wash those colours off the other side of the board. So what you should end up with is almost a blank sheet of paper to work on that's just tinted with a bit of colour. And again, I'm letting all those colours run and mix themselves. I'm not really going back in with my brush. If you want to tilt it, you can. That'll help with the angle of the paint. Just let it run. You can even put colour in at the top and just let it run. And then I need to let that dry. Right, now I'm going to start with my flowers. So I've got this lovely gentle wash of colour on. And I'm going to use a selection of brushes. Really what I'm trying to do with these is just make marks so that the flowers are made by single brush strokes. Okay, so let's start with some background flowers. So I'm taking some of this pink which I've used for the poppies, and I'm just going to suggest, not even poppies, I think they're tulips. And then I've got the poppy shape here, and I've got a poppy shape peeking down. It looks like it's sort of dipping its head. With the rigger, I'm going to join these to the vase, just suggest something. I'm then going to go into my purple for these ones at the top. Very, very pale mix of purple. And these, again, are just put in with one brush stroke, one touch. And attached into the bunch with some stalks. I want some kind of suggestion that there's some green foliage in here. So just with a little bit of yellow, I'm just going to start scrabbling that in. It could be that I put it in with a brush that makes different shaped brush strokes. I always like to mix my colours on the page, so really I know I've put green on here, sorry I put yellow on here, but I'm wanting to turn it green, and I'm doing that by just touching some blue into it, and the colour should mix on the page, and I always think that makes a much livelier, clearer, cleaner colour than one you've mixed on your palette and then transferred over. So if, where possible, do all of your colour mixing on your page. Now I'm going to come down into the vase here. So let's sort of take some of this out and round, out and round. And there we're starting to get the shape of the vase. And this vase is sitting on a table. And again, let's just put some of that in, shall we? I'm not worrying too much about filling all of this in. This is a sort of first layer of colour. Just check that the shape there is all right. As this starts to dry, I can start to add a bit more colour in so that I get a bit more density. Let's have some leaves. Sometimes even just using the back of your brush, where you get a puddle, you can drag that out. And as these start to dry, I can start to touch a little more colour into the base. All the time I'm just sort of feeling the shapes of these, because I want them to feel like they're loose and free and not pinned down. I actually called this painting something like Flowers and Flying Birds. Purple flowers and flying birds, because I wanted to give these flowers the sense of freedom and movement that sometimes flowers that are captured in a vase lack. So, again, adding a little more shade into the edge of this vase. And letting it drip and drizzle. And then I think I'm going to have to let this dry and then do a second layer. Okay, so I've got my first layer of flowers on, and really the second layer is about building up the depth. So even with flowers, you need some that sit back in the painting and some that jump forwards. So I can do this by having some of them with a stronger tonal value than some of the others. So I'm just going to add a little bit of dark. This is the Alizarin Crimson again. And with my rigger, and maybe a little bit more foliage. So again, back into my greens. So back into my yellow. Coming off the page. Things don't always have to sit nicely contained in the page. Sometimes it's quite nice to have things that take you off the page. Okay, so I'm going to form the top of the vase using the shadow from the plants. I'm going to do the same thing at the bottom of the vase actually. So with just water, I'm going to trace the outside shape of the vase. And what I hope is that as I drop some colour around the outside, it's going to start to read like a vase sitting on a table. Let's just take that away. Maybe needs to be a little bit darker underneath. I quite fancy dripping some yellow down the centre of this vase actually. And then just a few final touches and we've got a loose, suggestive picture of some flowers. And that's only taken me a few minutes to do. Nice and loose. It's a great one to have a play with. Try it just using one colour, that works really well. If you just pick one colour so you get your practice with your tonal value, that works really nicely. And then I've got my little birds. There we go. Kind of suggests it's an open window with birds flying in the sky. Right, I think this is nearly done. I just do feel like it needs some movement down the bottom. So with a big splattery brush, I am just gonna splatter across this side of my vase. It's sort of aiming to balance out what's happening on the top right hand side. The other right, not very good with my left and rights. It'll be top left for you guys, I think. So a bit of purple and a bit of yellow across there. Maybe just a spot of red down there. And I think that's everything. So I hope you enjoyed painting these with me today, and if you have any suggestions of what you want to do next, then let me know. Okay, bye for now.